Hello, and welcome to the Progressive View. Today our topic is the terrorist group known as ISIS. With the recent Brussels attacks, the media is once again in a buzz about the threat posed by ISIS. And while they asked Donald Trump and Ted Cruz for their opinions on the oh-so-scary danger of Muslims in the USA, they missed the main point: what needs to be done to fight ISIS right now. Clearly our bombing hasn't accomplished much in the way of preventing the global spread of ISIS's terrorist specter. If you truly track the expansion of ISIS, it is almost as impressive as it is terrifying. This map from the Institute for the Study of War shows ISIS's now global expansion. Yet terrorist attacks in Europe are the only thing that seems to remind the world of the group's global capabilities. It's not just Syria and Iraq where ISIS has a strong ground presence, and it's a mistake to only note Belgium and France when considering attacks outside of the Middle East. ISIS has sanctioned attacks in Saudi Arabia, Libya, Tunisia, Yemen, Turkey, Egypt, Lebanon, and Indonesia, not to mention the various ISIS-inspired attacks that have hit places like Australia and the United States. Yet Obama, and many of those competing to be his successor, seem to think the only option is more bombing. So one might ask, what has our bombing even accomplished? ISIS still remains strong in its core areas in Iraq and Syria, and has been allowed to expand unchecked. So just how many bombs has the U.S. dropped, and what exactly has our bombing accomplished? First, we have to examine the anti-ISIS coalition led by the United States. This combined joint task force is known as Operation Inherent Resolve by the U.S. Central Command. 66 nations are partnered in this coalition, including many European and Middle Eastern countries. So, they must be leading a hell of a campaign against ISIS with all that support, right? Well, let's take a look at this map of ISIS's territorial losses, represented here by the areas in green. Iraqi and Kurdish forces have succeeded in pushing ISIS back in northern Iraq and Syria, and have recaptured several cities in Iraq. However, ISIS still remains in control of significant territory in Iraq, not to mention the city of Mosul, which was formerly one of the nation's largest cities. Here's another question. What have we spent on bombs to facilitate these mediocre territorial gains? Well, according to the Department of Defense, as of February 29, 2016, the U.S. has spent $6.5 billion in anti-ISIS operations, an average of $11.4 million in 571 days of operations. Of course, that's only a drop in the bucket of our $600 billion military budget, but one has to ask why the U.S. has spent so much if we have 65 other coalition members backing us up. Well, the truth is, the U.S. has conducted over 8,300 of the 11,000 airstrikes, while very few strikes have been conducted by European or Middle Eastern allies, leaving the U.S. with the majority of the responsibility and the bill. So not only have countries neglected to halt the spread of ISIS, they have left the U.S. to ineffectively attack its core areas with little assistance. In many ways, Russia accomplished more in its 5-month campaign against ISIS than the U.S. has been able to do after 571 days and $6.5 billion. Russia has simply made better tactical decisions in its campaign. Sure, it was mostly a front to support the struggling Assad regime against Syrian rebels, but in many ways, Russia has weakened ISIS far more than the U.S. Russia understands the one thing the U.S. has struggled with: properly supporting forces on the ground. Where the U.S. conducts precise strikes to support disorganized Iraqi forces, Russia has conducted both broad and precision strikes in full tactical coordination with Assad. In the most recent campaigns against ISIS, the Syrian armed forces have been observed using Russian-style military tactics while being directly supported by Russia from the air. This strong air-ground coordination has proven hugely effective, and has allowed Assad to effectively prevent the further spread of ISIS in Syria. So, if the U.S. wants to destroy ISIS in Iraq and Syria once and for all, why not take a page from Russia's playbook? Clearly, a competent ground force is needed to take on ISIS. The Kurds have proven greatly successful, but lack the proper support from the U.S. and its coalition partners. If we truly want to defeat ISIS, then we need to adapt our strategy from blindly bombing for disorganized armies to actual tactical coordination and logistical planning for ground operations alongside our aforementioned air support. The U.S. needs to energize its coalition partners in Europe and the Middle East, where ISIS poses a massive threat. These countries need to engage in the same kind of smart, coordinated combat operations that Russia has proven to be so successful. But the international community must also come to the realization that victory in Iraq and Syria will not simply defeat ISIS. The organization is now a sort of hydra, threatening to spawn more and more threats should it be defeated in one area. The entire world needs to come together to combat this group, or their reign of terror will only grow worse. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. More videos coming soon.